Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم اللهم اغفر للمؤمنين والمؤمنات الأحياء ومن الأموات. So first, like always, in anything that we do, we start with the name of Allah Ta'ala. And then we send the complete and the perfect salam upon our Master Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, his family and his friends, and his Muslim nation. And his Muslim nation is me and you. And Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, that he made dua for us, that Allah protect us from any disobedience to him, subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ameen. So I arrived here yesterday, last night, and I had a particular speech written because the topic tonight is standing with sincerity. And so we'll talk about, standing with sincerity as well. But after being here, after meeting some of the mentors like Kabria, Adam, after meeting some of them and meeting some of the youth here, I was really inspired to speak to you from my heart. Because I had a mentor of my own, and he would always tell me, what's from the heart reaches the heart. So I would like to start, inshallah, by telling some of you a little bit about myself. And the reason being is that for the youth in particular, this community here and the things that you are a part of here, it's amazing. It's really amazing. And there are a lot of other youth all the way around the country who don't have what you have. Even though sometimes you may feel like you don't have a lot. You too, be quiet. So even though you may feel like what you have is not a lot, you have something tremendous here. And sometimes I fear that it's common that for the youth, that you would feel like you have it worse than others, when in reality, there are many others who have it far worse than you. And about this is that sometimes you can have ingratitude for your Islam, and you can have ingratitude for the people who bring you your Islam. Sometimes you will have more respect for your friends than you have for your own parents, and this is a mistake. So about me, my name is Ibn Ali Miller, and I was born in 1990, which for our elders, they know was like the crack era. So in DC, in AC, in NY, in LA, in Chicago, all of these major cities around the world, this is what was going on with the underserved black people at the time. And I have to mention it. I know sometimes to mention things about drugs and different things is not politically correct, but I had to mention it because for the African Americans in this country, that was something that had happened in the 80s. Because a lot of our parents, a lot of them, they went to jails, but a lot of them, they got their Deen in jails, and they bring that Deen from jail back home to us and help us revive our lives. So I had to mention that. And my father, his name is Ali Abdullah. Please make dua for him by name. He was killed in the streets when I was only 1 and he was only 20 years old. And my father, he didn't have any brothers. He had a sister, my auntie, who did her best to help my mother with me, and she was like my second mom, and may Allah Ta'ala bring her to Islam. Ameen. My mother, her name is Sabrina. Please make dua for her by name as well, for all of the struggles that she went to raising me and my brothers and making sure that we had some level of Islam in our lives. May Allah Ta'ala reward for that and give her a good ending. Ameen. My mother, she had a few brothers. She had 3 brothers. And dating from now back to that 10 years, all of my uncles have served over 10 years in prison. All of them. It's funny because as you grow, person must ask himself, everyone says, what do you want to be when you grow up? If you're a young person and you heard that question, what do you want to be when you grow up? Raise your hand. Only 2 of you ever heard that? Oh, okay, alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. So I'll ask it one more time. If you are a young person, and if you're not 40 years old, then you're a young person. If you have heard that question, what do you want to be when you grow up? If you heard that question, raise your hand. I should see all hands unless you're one of our elders. And when we were growing up, if someone was to ask me that question, I would tell him straight up, I want to be a gangster. Straight up. Maybe I would say I want to be like Mike, I want to be a basketball player. Maybe I would say I want to be a football player. But really, what I want to be, in my heart of all hearts, I want to be a money-making gangster. That's what I wanted to be when I was growing up. Because everyone that I seen and everyone that had respect, they were money-making gangsters. All of them. And then there was something that had happened. My father, he lost his life. Many of my friends, their parents did 15 years and 20 years and a bunch of time in jail. But when they all returned, they returned in a way where they were standing straight up. They weren't drug addicts anymore. They weren't selling drugs anymore. They weren't cursing the women anymore. And out of nowhere, they had a bunch of time for us. So in my young mind, I said to myself, wow, my uncle's back home. I'm like 12 or 13, And my life, I know him to be, the big man around the hood, And you hear these stories. So you think as a young man, I should mimic these things and maybe they will respect me in the same way. But at around 12 or 13 when he returned, he wasn't like anything that I had heard of him. He was constantly stopping to go and pray. He was constantly checking the food to make sure it was halal. He was constantly telling me to get off the phone with girls. Constantly telling me to watch myself with that. Constantly telling me to watch my friends. Constantly. So for me, I'm like, dang, man, you changed. You changed a lot, And because of some struggles and not having, some strong communities around him, and not having strong mentors himself, and not having strong friendships himself, he even fell again. And landed himself back in the same situation that he came from again. So here I am, I'm thinking that Islam is all talk. I see the change, I can feel it when he comes around. I can see it, I can feel it. But then he goes back to jail again. So I don't want to be that kind of Muslim, right? And then we got to our teen years, and many of us, we tried to be men before we were men. And this is a problem that we have with our youth now, is that all of the youth are trying to be adults before they're adults. Men and women. It's very, very common. Everyone's trying to be, quote unquote grown, Everyone wants to be a man. Everyone wants to be a woman. What I would tell you about that is to take your time and to stay in your place and to stay in your lane until the time comes. Because when the time comes for you to be a man, you won't be able to deny that. You'll have to stand up for that. And when the time comes for all of you to be women, you'll have to stand up for that. You won't have a choice in the matter. And so, in our teen years, we were heedless teens. We had Islam by name, like my name is Ibn Ali. We had Naeems and Rashids and Samads and Samis and Shadis and Shahids. We had them all. And we even went to Jummah prayer sometime too, and wore a kufi. But that was the extent to our Islam. And there was something that had happened to me, particularly, and I'll even be a little bit more personal, than I thought I was going to be. When I was 19, I had a cousin who, he returned home from jail, so he was 20 years old. He returned home from jail, And I remember that day we had like we call them block parties. You know what block parties are? We call them block parties. So he came home, and my family, we gave him a block party, you know? So he came home one day, I remember, like yesterday it was a Tuesday, and the block party was for Wednesday night. And on Tuesday, he was away for like a year. So on the Tuesday, he spent his day with his sons. He had two beautiful sons, my little cousins. So he spent his day with them, and then the next day, it was the block party, you know? And he had got wind within that 24 hours that there was a man who was our age, 19 or 20 years old or so, maybe even a year or two older, who was trying to engage in sexual activity with his younger sister, who was only 13 or 14 at the time. And so my cousin, he had made a plan that, you know what, I'm going to go talk to this person. I'm going to make sure that, you know, he doesn't try to do what he's trying to do again. And if he does try to do this again, I'm going to make sure that I stop him. And I'm going to stop him with my hands first. So he didn't run into him. But that next day at the block party that was for him, that same person, being scared of what he would do when they finally met each other, he killed them. So it was supposed to be a party for him to return home, and it turned out to be a party for him to go to his final resting place. I was in my mother's house, and I have children of my own. We were in the bed, and my uncle, he called me. I ran from my mother's house all the way to the place where he was killed. And it had to be at least 1 hour later, and he was still there on the ground. He was still there on the ground. There were ambulances around, cops around, everything was around, and he was still there on the ground. And I never forgot that. And I remember the children of his mother, as she was crying, it brought back a lot of things to me in my life. Because you can say it simply that, you know, I grew up without a father. But for anyone who knows, anyone who's grown up without a father, or anyone who has grown up without a father themselves, you know the struggle that entails day in and day out. But this was a normal thing where we were from. No one had their fathers. No one had their fathers. So it was normal. But it wasn't until I seen my cousin on the ground, and the next day when I seen his sons, I said, wow, they're orphans. They're going to grow up and they're going to be like me. They're going to grow up without a father, always wondering, how should I be? Who should I be? Who should I look up to? What kind of man am I? What kind of man should I be? You know, they said my father was like this, but without having him here to explain his true intentions to me, how do I know what was true and what was false? This was a turning point in my life. Because I said to myself, in the way that we were going, it was either that we were going to kill them or they were going to kill us, or we would be doing 100 years in prison. And at that time, I started to attend the local masjid, Masjid Muhammad. I was like 19. And it's funny because I had prayed for Allah to send me some good friends and some good company. It was my sincerest intention, because we always had a crew, but this crew that I was a part of, it was no longer good for me. So when I went into the masjid, I met my friend who's here, Ali ibn Tariq. He's like my closest companions, my age. But when I first walked into the masjid, I met a brother named Salim. And tonight we're here, and we're here to celebrate our mentors, you know, specifically at the Al-Hijrah youth program and the Rising Souls program. So I thought it would be befitting that I tell you a little bit about a mentor of mine and how he helped me and how he instilled in me Islam, even without him being a scholar. So I come into the masjid, and I seen Salim before. I seen Salim many times, riding his bike through the city in his pickup truck, you know, doing odd jobs, construction work all the time, you know, or I would see him with his daughters, you know. I always seen him, never had much conversation, but I seen him time to time. And it was funny because when I went to the masjid, you know, I met some people, but when I got to him, he shook my hand, and his hands were like, they were huge. You know, he was like, Salim was about 6 feet, maybe more than that. And about, I don't know, he was a really a built man, and his hands were like this big. And so when he shook my hand and he pulled me in, it almost felt like he embraced my whole body in the palm of his hand. I'm dead serious. I'm not even joking. You know, the way that he brung me in that particular day. I had never had a hug like that before or after. Never had a hug like that. You know, so he shook my hand and he brung me in, you know. And then he said, I love you, little Ake. I don't even know you, bro. You know, and he's telling me he loves me, you know. And where I'm from, you know, even our friends, we say, you know, before we leave, we say, I love you, you know, because we understand that we may not be meeting each other again. So when he says this to me, you know, a light bulb went off. I said, yeah, one, I don't know you, you know, and two, yo, are you wishing bad for me, man? You think something's going to happen to me? You're telling me you love me, you just met me. And over the time, I got to know Salim very well. And Salim, he was the manliest of men that I had ever met, even more manly than my own grandfather. And nobody's more manlier than your grandfather, you know? And he would critique me all the time. Hey, you, turn around. Keep your eyes up here. He would critique me all the time. All the time, literally. Everything I did, he would critique me. Every single thing that I did, he would critique me. If I'm coming to the masjid, you know, not properly dressed, he would critique me. If he seen me, you know, if I'm in the masjid 5 or 6 days, and then on the 7th day I'm not in the masjid, but I'm, you know, around the hood hanging with my homeboys, you know, he would pull out on his pickup truck, or pull up in his pickup truck, and he would hop out, he would critique me, and he would critique them. Like, I tired of him, you know, hopping out and critiquing me so much that I stopped hanging out so much. SubhanAllah. And one time I came into the masjid because I used to go to the masjid by myself. And I used to go there to get away from everything that was going on. And I remember one time I asked him, I said, Salim, I gotta ask you a question. And I had finally built up enough courage, you know. And I asked him, I said, why are you so hard on me? You know, it's other young guys that come here. Why are you not so hard on them? Why are you so hard on me? And he looked me dead in my eyes and he said, because you need it. That's why I'm hard on you, because you need it. He told me that he feared for me that if he was too nice to me in the beginning and gave me what I wanted and treated me more like in a baby-like manner, that I would take advantage of him because of where I'm coming from. And then he said also that, but if I'm extremely hard on you, I'm scared that I will push you away. That's why I'm hard on you, and I give you love every time I'm hard on you. He became my best friend. He was a mentor of mine, but he became my best friend. And for 5 years, I spent the majority of my time with him until Allah Ta'ala called him back. And I just want to tell you something about Salim, is that he was 40 years my elder, and he was my best friend. So this thing about the mentors, you know, and how they have to be, you know, close in age, it's not a real thing. It's good to have mentors that are close in age, but you can have a mentor, you know, who is far older than you, comes from complete different backgrounds, or comes from the same background. The requisite of being a mentor is to have love and to have mercy. That's the requisite for being a mentor. And something particular in our relationship, and sometimes my wife says that this was the reason that Allah Ta'ala had put him in my life. Because, subhanAllah, they're bringing me tissue because of my wife says that she thinks that one of the main reasons that Allah Ta'ala has brought Salim into my life was to really, you know, make a man out of me. And it was funny because the way that he did this was he taught me how to work. And I remember the first time that we cleaned the masjid together, or I would say the first time that he made me clean the masjid. And, you know, he happened to be there and cleaning as well, but I didn't want to clean the masjid, trust me. I definitely didn't want to clean the masjid, especially the bathrooms. Definitely didn't want to do that, you know? And it was the first time, that I did this, and alhamdulillah, this became my job, But this first time, or maybe the first, I don't know, 100 times, I did not like, I did not like this particular job. But I remember the masjid is about, I don't know, the community room is like, I don't know, like 5,000 square feet. So it's a nice size. And it took me I didn't even know how to mop. So he was showing me what to do with the mop and everything. And I had on some nice sneakers at the time. They weren't Jordans, but they were nice though, And I was getting my sneakers wet with dirty mop water. I'm like, yo, bro, I can't be doing this, And then I took the mop, I dunked it in, and then I put it on the wringer, and I wrung it, and the dirty mop water squirted on me. And I was like, yo, I'm finished. This is not it, And he wouldn't let me finish, And at the end of that, Salim had a funny way about young people, because we have this thing there where a lot of our elders, they tiptoe around young people sometimes. Sometimes they're like, I don't want them to get too upset. I don't want them to, like this. But Salim, he cared about his son, but not too much. He had a way of letting you know that this is how things were going to be, and if you didn't like how things were going to be, that he would make some quick arrangements, to fix that for you, So not wanting to get this quick arrangement, I was like, okay, I'll finish, whatever. And it took me 2 hours, which is only a half an hour job, but it took me 2 hours because I'm like, man, I don't get my shoes wet, stuff squirting on my shirt, And at the end of that, he had gave me $20. And wallahi, it was the most gratifying $20 I had ever made cleaning the masjid. I had never made $20 that meant more to me than that my entire life. And at that time, I was 20. I had made $20 more than several thousand times. But that $20 in particular, it changed my life. And then he employed me. He brought me to work with him. Some days, we would work 4 hours, some days 8 hours, some days we work 12 hours. Some days we work 1 hour. But whatever the day would be, he would give me $100. So I would work for an hour and get $100. Whoa, get 100. $100 whole dollars for 1 hour work. It didn't feel so nice on the 12-hour days. But on the 1 hour days, it was really nice, And from that, when he died 2 years ago, he had a company named Salim Dreamworks. And alhamdulillah, he left that to me. And so now I'm an independent contractor on my own and have been for some time now. But I would have not been able to do that without someone holding my hand and show me my potential, to show me what I can be and what I can do. I wouldn't have had that. I didn't even know how important work was. I had no idea that work was worship. I had no idea that being a man and standing up for your family was worship. I had no idea because we didn't have anyone when we were growing up to tell us that or to show us that. When I met Salim, and mind you, Salim, he wasn't a scholar. He wasn't a scholar. He knew his obligatory knowledge, those things that he had to know. And after that, he knew a small amount of hadith, small amount of Quran. But man, the way that he lived his life, he embodied the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. This brings me to my next topic about the mentors here at Al-Hijrah Youth. And I would like to commend you all for the job that you're doing here in the program that Kabriya, or MK as they affectionately call him around here, alhamdulillah, and Sheikh Aisha and all of the others who help and take part. I just want to really say I commend you all for what you're doing. And inshallah, the time that we spend here, I've been taking notes. I've been taking mental notes and I've been jotting things down. Inshallah, we can take some of the things that you have here, some of these programs you see on the board, we can take them back to our hometown, Atlantic City, and our own masjid, as well as take them to other places where these things are needed around the country, inshallah. And about being a mentor, before we say that, please give a round of applause for these mentors. No way, absolutely not. So when you show gratitude, for someone who's being selfless, right? You can't be selfish when you do that. So again, please, let's give a round of applause for our mentors. And those of you that are mentors here, please stand, just so they can see your faces. Please, 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 please. I know you don't like it. I'm getting used to being up here, so if I got to be up here, you have to stand too. And what I would like to mention about them in particular is that if you were to ask all of them about their lives and about their experiences, all of them are going to tell you something different. If you ask them about their childhood and about their parents, all of them are going to tell you something different. If you ask them about their education, right, and what they want out of life and all of these things and their desires, they're all going to tell you something different. But the one thing that all of them are going to tell you is La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah. That's what they're going to tell you. And that's why they're standing before you. They're not standing before you because, they want some type of recognition or because, they want people to say, hey, look at me, I'm helping out some kids. They don't even get the recognition they deserve. Trust me, they don't. And they're not going to mention that, but I'm going to mention it for them. Is that they don't get the recognition they deserve and they don't get the support that they deserve as well. However, but because they all believe in La ilaha illallah, they're standing before you today. So inshallah, please give them another round of applause. From my own experiences in my life and from the mentors that I've had, Salim, and there were a few others as well, but Salim was definitely the most influential for me in my life. And at the time that I met him and the things that I was going through when I met him and how he helped me come out of a state of confusion and a state of heedlessness. But there are three things that I would like to tell, the mentors. Is that in being a mentor, to never lie, to never give up, and to lead by example. Why am I saying this? If you're here and you are, under 18 or 19 or 20, if you're not that old yet, stand up. Really, stand up. Stand up. Stand up. Stand up. And the reason being is because I want all of you to see the leaders of tomorrow. I want all of you to see our future imams. I want all of you to see our future teachers, our future husbands, and our future wives. I would like you to see the future of our Islamic society. And so for the mentors, all of you stand. You're going to be standing for about 30 more seconds, inshallah. You cannot lie to them. You absolutely cannot lie to them. Why? Because if you lie to them and they find out that that lie was a lie, they will never trust you. Even in matters when you told them the truth. However, if you tell them the truth and they find out indeed that what he told me was the truth, then they will have an unbelievable amount of trust for you, and it will make more concrete for them everything that you've taught them, even the things that they don't understand. And this thing that I had from the youth, I just need you to tell me that you promise, You promise. Once you tell me that, it's our word, and as Muslims, we have to keep our word. So I'm going to have a request upon you as well, is that the same way we don't want our elders and our mentors to lie to us, I am begging you, please do not lie to them. Do not lie to your parents. Do not lie to your teachers. Do not lie to people who are in authority over you. Do not lie to them about who you are. They've seen it and heard it all before. Trust me. But if you lie to them about what you're going through, and if you lie to them about how you're feeling, and if you lie to them about what's going on at school, and what's going on the block, and what's going on over here, and if you lie to them about the music that you like, or the music that you're listening to behind closed doors, if you lie to them, then they won't be able to help you. They will not be able to help you. So I am begging you all, young people, do not lie to your elders, and do not lie to yourselves. Can you promise me that? You say, I promise. I can't hear you. I didn't hear you. Okay, alhamdulillah. You can see. this next thing about not giving up, man, subhanAllah, all of us, we have rough times with this. Sometimes we even give up on ourselves, right? Sometimes we give up on our own children, you know? Sometimes we give up on our own parents, our own siblings, you know, our own cousins, and the people that we, you know, came up in the same house with. We give up on them. So this idea of, you know, not giving up, I'm not going to say, you know, it's the easiest thing to do, especially as a mentor. And you're trying to be there for someone who may not understand that they need someone to be there for them. I get that. I get that. But you absolutely have to find it in yourself as a mentor to not give up on you and what you're doing. Because the thing about being a mentor is that you won't get instant gratification. Because sometimes when I think about Salim, and he used to tell me about my potential, I used to think he was crazy. But here it is today, they paid me to come talk to you. And I actually find enjoyment in cleaning the masjid. Believe it or not, I actually like it a lot. To make it smell good for the believers when they come. You know, may Allah Ta'ala reward him for teaching me that. But my teacher, Imam Amin, he would say sometimes to me, and I don't know if he would see me giving up or if he would see me like my iman, you know, decreasing, or people that love you, they have a way of knowing what's going on with you even without you telling them. So young people, your mentor, right, or your parents or your teachers, they may come to you and say, hey, you know, I think, you know, X, Y, and Z is going on. You know, you want to talk to me about it? And you're like, no, that's not what's going on. You're crazy. That's, you know, that's the farthest thing from my mind. But you're saying that with your tongue, but everything other than that, everything, your posture, your body language, the clothes you wear, all of that is saying to them that something's wrong. And guess what? They know you better than you know yourself. Because before you picked your own clothes, they dressed you for years. Before you used the bathroom on your own, they made extension on your own, they cleaned you. And before you could pick up a fork, they fed you. And so for a mentor, you have to know that in some ways it's kind of like being a parent for the time that they're with you. You have to clean them and feed them. Maybe not physically, mentally. You have to clean them and feed them and be there for them. And Imam Amin, he would tell me, he said, you know, he would say, hey, don't stop knocking at the door. I'm like, yeah, what door are you talking about, bro? Because sometimes our teachers, they speak in a figurative way that, you know, you have to be really paying attention to understand what they're saying. And they say that, you know, he gave us a saying from his teachers that he said that in every indication, there's a clear expression. And he who does not benefit from a clear expression or from an indication, he will never benefit from a clear expression. So he says, don't stop knocking. And he said it to me a couple times. And I said, yeah, what do you mean when you say don't stop knocking? He said, because my teachers, they taught me that whoever stops knocking at the door of Allah, they said that maybe Allah Ta'ala was going to open the door for you at the very next knock. And you stop knocking. So I'm telling you all, do not give up. On yourselves or on others. Do not give up. Perhaps that moment when you gave up, it was going to be the next attempt that put us over the hump. Perhaps. And Allah knows best. And you have to lead by example. We grew up like in the, you know, a really rough area. So we seen and heard the adults, you know, do things and say things, you know, that maybe sometimes weren't appropriate for children. And subsequently, you know, not even thinking about it, we just mimic these things. Literally, we just mimic these things. And they all told us better. They all told us better, but we mimic what they did. And you should know about leading by example is that young people, very, very rarely are they going to do what you tell them to do. Very rarely. And if you have a young person who does all of what he's told to do, then give him even more love and more encouragement, because maybe he's going to be the leader of his generation. Because the greatest leaders are the best followers. But young people, they may not do what you say, but they will do what they see you do. Whether that be good or bad. So if my father is, a gangster, even when he's around me, or like my uncles, like I told you, even when he's around me, if he's telling me the right thing to do and showing me the right thing to do and these kind of things, but when he's not with me in particular and I'm watching him and I see him doing this or that, more than likely I'm going to try to do this or that. If you have, you have people who come to the masjid, right? And they come with their families and different things, and then they leave, and then they go and do, X, Y, and Z at home that they know they shouldn't do. X, Y, and Z, in other places other than the masjid. And they have their kid with them in the masjid and outside of the masjid. Your child, more than likely, he's probably going to do, what he's seen you do when no one was looking. And all young people who are here and all of our elders, because, in order to be an elder, I have to give this to the young people, that in order to be an elder is that you have to be young first. So for all of you who can't look at your father or your mother or your teachers or your mentors, if you can't look at them, as a young person, because physically, that's not what you see, you should know that the prerequisite to old age is youth. Never forget that. And inshallah, one day you will be elders too. When I was in college, I spent a little time in college, and I had to come home early because I had children. And when we were there was a book. I forget the name of the author, so please excuse me, but the book title was Race, Class, and Gender in the United States. And this is something that these particular things, race, class, and gender, is something that I'm encouraging all the Muslims to tackle, because it's our job. It's our job to bring good race relations. It's our job to bring good class relations, and it's our job to bring good gender relations, even if that means, the lack of relation between men and women. So this book in particular, there was something in it that really stuck out to me. And I was like, wow, man, this is deep. And this is my cousin hadn't got killed yet. Certain things hadn't happened yet. I was 18 and I was a freshman in college. And there was one particular section of the book, and it spoke about dominance and subordinates in relationships. And how, most relationships, very, very rarely do you have relationships where there's not a dominant person and a subordinate person. Even amongst like young kids as their friends, you'll see the one little guy who all the other little guys are following around. He's the head honcho of them. Or the sisters, you have one young sister who's like really outgoing in her personality and all of that. So all the young sisters are like, they're following her, want to be like her, But more importantly, in your important relationships in life, there's going to be a dominant in the relationship, there's going to be a subordinate in the relationship. So the easiest way to explain this is like parent and child. So the parent is the dominant and the child is the subordinate, right? Or like big brother and little brother, right? Or like teacher and student. Or there are many others, but you understand the concept. But about this thing about relationships and about dominance and subordinates is that the subordinate always pays more attention to the dominant than the dominant pays to the subordinate. So that time, when you think they're not watching, they're watching. The mentors, you're downstairs having your program, yada, yada, yada. And then you leave the program and you go outside, and you're on the phone with one of your peers, one of your friends, right? And you're laughing about something permissible, right? You're laughing about something, right? And then you bust out, and make an expression or say a word or something like that, that shouldn't have been said. But you're all the way in the parking lot. You're all the way in the parking lot, right? You're not nowhere where kids should be, where kids are, And then you come back and little Muhammad or little Asim, they're looking at you and they're saying, they're not saying it, but now they're treating you different. You're like, well, why is he treating me different? I'm telling him to come in my group. He's like, nah, I don't want to be in this group. He's lost trust for you. So I want to tell the mentors about this thing about dominant and about subordinate is that you're not mentoring people or you're not mentoring children for the sake of saying, look, I mentored a great child. Nah. You're mentoring children so that way they can become the next great mentors. And so that way they can become a great dominant role to all the subordinates that will be in their lives. Their children and their students and those people that they will mentor. The topic of the program here today was standing with sincerity. I spoke a bit about the mentors, and I could have spoke more about standing with sincerity, but I'm telling you, when I came here to this community, the most sincere thing that I've witnessed here is the group of mentors that you have for the youth. I'm telling you, if we can get energy like this in my hometown, man, we would be flowing. We really would be having things going on. But you have some people, you know, in their older but still young lives, in their 20s or their 30s, that are just captured in the dunya. Even the Muslims, you know, even people who, you know, they live the Deen, but they are just captured in the dunya and they don't have time to reciprocate. But one thing I want to tell you about sincerity is this. Because there are a few things we talked about today. We talked about death, some, which if the idea of you don't know when you're going to die, if that doesn't make you sincere, then nothing else will make you sincere. If the fact that you have to return to your Lord doesn't make you sincere, then nothing else will make you sincere. So about standing with sincerity, it's about embodying the prophetic characteristics of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You don't have to be a scholar. You don't have to be a teacher. You don't have to be an imam. You don't have to be a hafiz. You don't have to be a muhaddith. You don't have to. You have to say, La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah, and you have to do your absolute best to live that in every single moment of your life. Especially when nobody's watching, because that's who you really are. That's who you are. So I know you come here, you're dressed now, everything's going on, everything's nice, but you are the person that was in his house before he came here. And then you travel here. But let me tell you something about traveling is that it ends in the grave. And for all of us, when we die, after all of our family leaves, all the people that loved us leave, the imam, they leave, they read Quran for us. But when they're all gone and Surah Yasin is done, then the angels, they come and they ask you those questions. Who was your Lord? What was your religion? And who was your prophet? You know, this scares me for my own self. Just even speaking about it, you know, it scares me for my own self. Because here's the thing. If you didn't live in a way that you were sincere about Allah Ta'ala being your Lord, and if you didn't live in a way where you were serious about Islam being your religion, and if you didn't live in a way where you were sincere about Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, about him being your prophet, if you weren't sincere in that, I don't care what you said. I don't care how you dressed. I don't care about none of that. I don't care about your community. I don't care about what your parents did. I don't care about what country you're from. I don't care about the Quran you remember. I don't care about none of that. I'll tell you something, though. When the angels come, your tongue won't work. Your tongue will not work. You could have acted like anything you wanted. But on the day of your janazah and everyone leaves and Munkar and Nakir, they come and ask you the questions, if you weren't sincere in your life, then at the moment when it counts most, when it really, 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 really counts the most, you won't be able to get another chance to be sincere after that. And so for all of you, you should say Raditu billahi rabba wa bil islami dina wa bi Muhammadin nabiyya often. You should say that often. you should start preparing. My grandfather, I'm going to stop with this statement, but my grandfather, may Allah have mercy on his soul, he would tell my uncles and my mom, and then, they would say it to us that, and he was a military man, so, he was really rigid, but he would say that proper preparation prevents poor performance. I'll say that one more time. Proper preparation prevents poor performance. So I'm encouraging you all, the youth and our elders, and everyone in between, to prepare properly so that way you can perform properly on the day of your death. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Sorry if I was a little bit winded there, Muhammad. And sorry for everyone, real quick before you go. Sorry for everyone if it seems, that I was a little all over the place. Like I said, I had something that I wrote. But after being here with you all and seeing the hospitality of you all and talking to some of the other young people, I really wanted to just speak to you from my heart. And so, inshallah, that these things that came from my heart, I pray that it reached yours as well in the best of manners and the best of states. My teacher, they say that if you don't have questions, that there's only one or two things, that happen there. It's either that everyone, either understood everything that you said, or that no one understood anything you said. So, okay. Sister? Inshallah. Inshallah. So long as there's either, another brother with me, if that's okay, inshallah.
Any questions from the brothers?
Assalamu alaikum. Sidi Ishmael. Alhamdulillah. And so they can hear you.
Okay, I'm sorry. Okay. When you were out of the Deen, you were like once upon a time I was like that too. But now you came back, Allah brought you. Allah brought you to the Deen. Now you see your other friends. When you see them, what do you feel?
So, Ismail, that was a great question. Because the idea of friendship is that a true friend, that he would break himself into pieces just to put you back together. That's a true friend. That's what they would do, a true friend. And it's funny, but, the light of Islam, it's too hard not to accept when it's right there in your face. It's too hard, So my friends, I was telling someone earlier, I have one of the closest friends I have in my entire life. He was my friend since I was 5 years old. And so all of these stories I'm telling you, he was in, one way or another, he was involved in everything that I'm telling you about. But when I started going to the masjid and got really close to Salim and Imam Amin and Ali and Wali and all of those other brothers, me and him, our relationship kind of went like this. He was still my friend, and if he needed me or if I needed him, I could still, hey, I need you, or hey, he needs me. But we didn't spend much time to each other because he was still on the block doing all that stuff, and I was trying to do my best to be a family man and to be a Muslim. But I never gave up on him. Always, hey, yo, they're going to do iftar at the masjid. You want to roll through with me? Or hey, I'm going to Jummah prayer. You want to come through with me? Most times he would say no. But recently he was arrested. He was arrested, and now he's in prison. And it's funny that the 3 months, he was like on trial and waiting everything. The 3 months, all this time, for the last 6 or 7 years, I can never get him to come to the masjid with me. And then the 3 months, before he went away to prison, he spent every day in the masjid with me. And his name is Glenn, but his attribute is Hamza. His uncle gave him his attribute when his uncle returned from prison when we were like 10 or 11, and he named him Hamza before he was a Muslim. He took Shahada maybe when we were like 19 or 20 because he felt like it was the right thing to do, And now he tells me he's going to be returning home soon. But now he tells me, he says, yo, man, I want to be like the real Hamza. May Allah Ta'ala make him successful in this. I mean. So the thing with the friends, if you have friends, who are still doing things, don't give up on them. And the best way that you can show them, Islam is by still being that friend, and not succumbing to those bad things that they're involved with. It's important. But for young people, if you have friends and you feel like if I'm around them, I'm not going to be able to, not do what they do, then it's best not to be around them. But if he's really your friend, then he's going to make sure that even if he's doing bad, that the bad doesn't come to you. Inshallah.
Yes, ma'am.
Wa alaikum salam. I would tell them, because I'm telling you, none of you know me, and I don't know any of you, but I can tell you from what I know of myself that I'm definitely the worst Muslim in this room, and so what I can tell you about that, is to tell them don't be diluted. There's always someone that you can reach. Always, 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 always someone that you can reach. And, you got to know that the person whom that person may be able to reach is the same person that the person who's like the goody good person on the other end, he may not be able to reach them. So do know that wherever you are and that whoever you are with and whatever position you play with them, whatever role you play with them, that it was given to you by Allah. Here I am, I stopped some kids from fighting, and then people want to hear what I have to say. I'm nobody, really. I'm nobody, But just doing something, that I thought was the right thing to do at the time that it was happening. You reach so many people. So I would tell them, don't be deluded, thinking, how bad you are in thinking that your bad is going to limit you from doing good is a trick of Shaitaan. So don't be tricked by Shaitaan, inshallah.
Yes, sir.
I seen young guys fighting, bro. I just told you, like my cousin got killed and this and that and this and that, how we grew up and this and that, Yo, I hate that way of living, bro. I'm telling you, man. Like the project lifestyle, the ghetto lifestyle, I hate it. Wallahi, I hate it. I absolutely hate it. Some of the things from the culture that we derived that were good for us, alhamdulillah. But those negative things, like, having to be a manlier man by showing your physical strength, that's whack, yo. And, like, my thing is just that, like Abu Hurairah, rahimahullah, like he relates from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam that, which means, and I'm paraphrasing here, please don't get me. Which means that any or the strongest amongst you or the strongest person amongst you is not the one who can overtake people with his physical strength, but rather the person who can control himself when angry. So trying to show those young boys how to really be strong, inshallah.
And I think I just want to relate to the question that you asked, why do we stop fighting? One of the tenets of our faith is that when you see something wrong, and if you don't stand up, on the day of judgment, you take a portion of that wrong. So if you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. So you will not enter Jannah in some of the conditions of us until you stand up for justice.
Subhanallah.
And there's a hadith, famous hadith, that says that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent angels to this town to destroy it. Most of you know this hadith. And the angels went to this town. They're about to go destroy this entire town. And they found one believer in that town. And they're like, something wrong. There's a believer in this town who's praying in the masjid. He's doing his salah. They went back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and said, Ya Rabb, there's a believer of yours. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, start with him. Listen carefully, start with him. He's the one coming to the masjid and praying. He doesn't stand up for justice. He's the one coming to the masjid and praying. He doesn't, when he sees his friends doing wrong, he doesn't stand up. So many of our friends we know, smoking weed, dating, doing all sorts of wrong things, but we're just like silent about it. We're just encouraging them. And that's a problem in our heart. That's a corruption in our heart. That's a corruption. Don't think government is not going to you have corruption. Corruption exists in our heart. So when you're not doing something about it, you take a portion of his sin or that person. And Allah is going to ask you, why didn't you stop him? And your friend will ask you in their judgment, how come you didn't stop him? So like, for him to stop that fight, he's like fulfilling one of the main obligations to enter Jannah. It's like, subhanAllah.
But here, let me tell you though, because it kind of goes back to, what, the sister had asked me about, if you're not, if you don't feel like you're good yourself. I was right before that happened, before I was doing an errand for my mom, I was actually in class, in a hadith riwayah class of the 40 hadith of Imam Nawawi, rahimahullah. And my teacher, Ustad Hassan, he teaches at Al-Muqasid Learning Center. We were talking about signs of a good ending, as well as signs of a bad ending. And so I was already in an emotional state because I was thinking about, man, am I going to go to heaven? Am I going to go to hell? Like, I was really thinking about that, while I was doing the thing for my mom. And I don't know if I was right here in your community, if I seen a fight, that I would have broken it up. Same exact thing, but I don't know if I'm not at home, if I would do the same thing. So I don't want you to think that, I'm Superman and that, if I'm anywhere in the world, see people fight, I'm going to jump it. Maybe if I'm not at home, maybe I won't do it. But even in my low self, at the time, I felt like there was something good that I could do at the time. And alhamdulillah, Allah had made it, to all of this. Should I, this one? Yeah, go ahead. Okay. I'll read the question. Assalamu alaikum wa alaikum salam. Is that when you love your kids and make everything good, Deen, school, but when they reach their teenage years, they say to mom or dad, I don't want this house, or, I want to leave this house, or, what advice you can give, please. Okay. Alhamdulillah. The advice that I have about that is that Shaitaan is our only enemy. And in Quran, it says, that he's our enemy and that we should treat him like our enemy and we should wage war on him. And the trick of Shaitaan is it's like one of the, and it's one of the things that they use in war as well, but it's deflection. It's deflection, So they would make, a person, or for instance, like racism, right? And now where we are now, so you still have some black people who don't like white people, right? And it's like, they're this, they're that, they're this, they're that. And in reality, they're human beings. They're just like you. They don't, I even heard someone call someone else like the devil or something. And I was like, oh, man, subhanAllah. And so what I want to say this is that whenever you have this kind of thing going on where you did everything right for your child and really that you did right for your child, then you have to know that some way or somewhere along the way that Shaitaan is deluding him. So perhaps you want to continue to tell him the truth, and you want to pray for him a lot, and you want to constantly be that good example for him for when he would like to return home. Because I don't care who you are, he may want to leave now, but when he gets out there in the real world, he's going to know that there is absolutely no place like home. And for my older brothers and sisters who are not born in America, and their children are first generation American, my people from the Middle East, my people from the African countries, my people from Asia, all of these places, right, is that when you come to this country, alhamdulillah, you have your culture and you have your customs, alhamdulillah. But when you come to this country, is that you have to take your culture and take your customs to put to add to the culture and the customs that are already here, and to make them better, and to bring our Islam together like this. Because one thing that I fear, alhamdulillah, for my brothers and sisters who are immigrants is that, they grow up more like American kids like us. Everyone wants to be like the ghetto kids. Everyone wants to listen to the rap music. Everyone wants to wear, the Nike sneakers and even the way that they hook up their, they hook up their thobes and everything. Like my brother here, he has on Air Force Ones with the Adidas pants with his thobe. And I got on the Adidas pants too with my thobe. Alhamdulillah. So the thing is that I fear that sometimes the culture here and the customs here are so different. And children, you got to know that these guys, man, they're just young people. It's not even that they're just mom and dad, I don't want to be like this, I don't want to be like that. Sometimes they're just saying, I want to be like something different. It doesn't mean that they don't want to be Muslims. That's not what it means, But maybe perhaps if you know, integrate them more in this society, then the society, you know, when they get older and they get out here in the world on their own, or they, you know, from school or different things, that maybe if you know, integrate them more into the American society while they're young, then perhaps when they get older, they won't be so mesmerized by all those things outside your door, inshallah. All right. So one question is, as a mentee, what should you do if your mentor isn't playing his or her role as a mentor, but still helps you in many ways when you need that help? What should you do when you feel this way? Well, first I would say about a mentor, if it's not like if it's not your like father or your mother, you know, then they don't have an obligation to you. You know, so any way that you do receive help from them, to have mercy on them and to understand that, you know, this is how they're mentoring me in these ways that they help. And those other ways, you know, where they fall short, make dua for them. Because again, I'll go back to the sister's question again about, you know, what do you do if you don't, you know, if you're feeling like you're not such a good Muslim yourself, but you're trying to help Muslims, you know, perhaps, you know, perhaps him being your mentor or her being your mentor and helping you in those little ways that you do receive their help, perhaps that's the thing that's helping them be a good Muslim. So sometimes the mentee is doing even a bigger job for the mentor than the mentor is doing for the mentee. Inshallah. Then the other question was, do you think it's always okay to stand up for yourself, and why? I got to be honest, man, we're Muslims. Always stand up for yourself. Period. I'm not against self-defense. Like Khattab, you know, he said that it was like one time he was walking, he had his young son with him, you know, and he was trying to get out of he was trying to go be with Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you know, and then they were, you know, people were stopping him and all of that, and he told them, he said, you know, by Allah, he said, I'm not gonna start a fight with you. You know, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he told me not to start a fight. I'm not gonna start a fight with you. I won't do that, but I will finish it though. You know, so for the Muslims, make this your attitude, like Umar. Never, ever, 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 ever be the one to ignite fire. However, if you have to, then be the one who extinguishes the fire. And something that Umar also said, like in business, because there are two ways of standing up for yourself, or many, but there's a physical way of standing up for yourself, and then there's ways of standing up for yourself with morality, you know. But he had another thing that he said about business, you know, and he was just, you know, because like the people in the Byzantine area, like they were like really shady with business, like mad shady with business. And so he was saying something to the effect that you know, I'm smart enough, you know, he said I won't cheat them, you know, meaning I won't do any bad business practices with anybody, you know, I'll be straight up. But also, you know, I'm smart enough and I'm going to protect myself to not be cheated as well. So I won't accept that from anybody. So this thing about standing up for yourself, the best way to stand up for yourself is to not do to others what you wouldn't done to you. And that if something comes across, you know, something come across your lap where you have to stand up for yourself, then stand up for yourself in the best of ways, you know. Because even like Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, even the Sahaba, when they were at war, they were even merciful on their enemies. Even when they had to kill them, fighting for Islam, they were merciful to their enemies. You know, so about standing up for yourself. If you feel like you can't stand up for yourself without being angry, then it's better just leave it all alone, you know. But if you can stand up for yourself without being angry, then inshallah, it's best that you stand up for yourselves. And then, young man, you had a question? Everyone, this is the first young guy with a question, so, you know, stand up, stand up, stand up, stand up. No, stand up, stand up, stand up, stand up.
I was just going to ask, you have such a high level of sincerity and like based on all of the like anecdote that you've given, and like even when you talk to the sister with like I just like to see you, or whenever you ask a question, I want to be like, you know, like that shows that you have like a high level, like a high nature of genuineness and everything. So I was just wondering how you get that.
One, I gotta say, I love your afro. You look like one of my younger cousins, so I gotta tell you that, you know. So I've been looking at you the whole time, like, yo, this guy, he looks like this guy looks like Abdul Azim, you know. Really, you do. This is afro, you know. The thing about sincerity is that I wasn't always like this, and And truly, I pray that Allah makes me what you think that I am and makes me more sincere, you know. Because for a person to stand up and say, yeah, I'm sincere, that shows his insincerity. So may Allah Ta'ala accept from me. But the main thing that keeps me sincere, I'll be honest, man, I think about death a lot, bro. Really, man. Like, I think about, yo, we hear all these stories, but I don't know if you did, any reading about the Barzakh yet, about the grave, your life in the grave. But I encourage all of you, especially young people, you should go do some reading about the life in the grave. And there are several books, I think like Imam Haddad's Lives of Man is, it's really concise, and it's it's an easier read than some of the other books. But I think maybe that would be a good one. But if you read some about the life in the grave, like the intermediate world, you will really realize how short-lived this 40 or 50 or 60 or 80 or 100 or, however long you live, you realize how short it all is, But when you read more about the life of the grave, and you get to see that all of these things that I'm doing, good or bad, where it's really going to affect me at, and that I'm going to feel it, because the thing about Jannah, and the thing about hell is that, the person who goes into the person who's dipped into the hellfire, they say that person is like he never knew any good. It's like he never knew any good. Once he goes to the hellfire, he doesn't even remember the good being good. He doesn't remember any good that he's done, any good that he's been a part of, any good that had ever happened in his life when he's dipped into the hellfire. Thank you, Aisha. And likewise, the person who goes to Jannah, that this person, once he's in Jannah, it's like he never knew any bad. So truly, you're not going to reflect about the struggles in Jannah, because there's no struggle in Jannah. And truly, you're not going to reflect about, those good things you've done in the hellfire, because there's no good in the hellfire, But this life of the grave is where you're going to be tormented. It's where you're going to be punished, or where the punishment will start if you have everlasting punishment, or where there will be some punishment for you, right? Until, you have enough punishment to match your sins, and then Allah Ta'ala, then he may remove you from that particular place until the day of judgment. But this thing about the grave, whatever you did or didn't do, you're going to really know what's up when you get into that grave. Some of you may have graves that smell so good, man. SubhanAllah. And you can see, you have a garden there, really in your grave. Man, you can have that. And then some of you, you won't be able to see, and it'll be pitch black, and you'll, experience pain, And then some of us Muslims will experience the pain in the grave, and then eventually make it to Jannah. And, and if we are, among them, I pray that Allah Ta'ala, that He fixes us in a way now in our lives, where we can bypass all of the torture in the grave. So that's how, I try to be sincere about, thinking that if I say something to you, if I say something to her, I say something to him, that how's it going to affect me in the grave, Well, the beauty about, being 2017 is that many of the classical texts, are large amount of them are translated into English now. Like, you can't find everything, unfortunately, but a large amount. And so about what I was telling you about, proper preparation prevents poor performance, is that, man, you got to be an avid reader. I'm telling you, everyone that's here, be an avid reader. Read. Because sometimes you'll think a person's smart, and he's not smart. He's just more, he's just more well-read than you are. So he can talk about a larger, array of topics than you can, because he's more well-read. So sometimes we get this idea of what intelligence is and all of that, but you got to read, bro. Just read. Just read. Whatever you can read. And then from there, those things that are supposed to stick with you, they'll stick with you. And then after that, if you have someone who can teach you, don't make this mistake. All my people that want to be like Talibul Ilm, everyone wants to be like a student of knowledge, don't make the mistake of trying to go be with the famous scholar. Really, you want to take from who you have right next to you first. And perhaps, they'll know your condition, and they'll know you better than the famous scholar who may be overseas or in another land or this or that. So that's that. 1, 3. So just these 3? Okay. How do you know when you're fit to be a mentor? How do you elevate when you can be an example to another being? Yo, you know you're fit to be a mentor when you get your first mentee. Simple as that. Like to be a mentor is not something that you like, when I turn 18, I'm going to be a mentor. Or, when I turn 21, I'm going to go to the masjid, I'm going to join Rising Souls, and I'm going to be a mentor. And about those mentors that are here, that are, that stood up earlier, if you ask any of them how they became mentors, one, you'll get different variations of stories. Some of them will probably be funny, but all of them probably, they won't tell you that they set out to be mentors. I'm almost sure of it. They were coming, they were going, and then something touched their hearts to say, you know what, I got to give back, So the thing about being a mentor is that when you're ready to give back, inshallah, that when Allah places a person in front of you for you to give back, then you're ready to be a mentor. Like with me speaking in front of you, I live a simple life, almost an invisible life, really. Like I'm not, I try my best not to seek for attention. And, but Allah Ta'ala, He brung something in front of me, so now I'm here speaking in front of you. So you'll know that you're fit to be a mentor when you get your first mentee, inshallah. And here's the thing about being a mentor is that sometimes, you won't even pick you won't pick the people that you mentor, they'll pick you. They'll say, I want to follow you, I want to be like you. And that's when it happens. So the next question is, going back to the concept of corruption in our hearts, when you don't speak up when you see wrong, how can you help guide a friend without making them feel like you are judging them or you're being arrogant? The best way to guide a friend, and I think we spoke about it some, the best way to guide a friend without them seeming that you're being arrogant or that you're judging them is to not be arrogant and to not judge them. And that's something only right? When you're making the comment, right? If a person, say for instance, right? A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, right? That, one of our sisters are uncovered, right? This is something that happens amongst young people. They'll be uncovered or they'll move their hijab like way back here to, you know what I mean? Like that. So if you go to her and you say, hey sister, I think you were even more beautiful when all of you were covered, right? You're reminding them, you're not judging them, you're not being arrogant, but if you go to them and you're like, A'udhu billah, sister, how could you be like not in hijab right now? Like what's wrong with you? Then perhaps, that's why they feel that way. So the thing about, not wanting the person to feel a certain kind of way is to make sure that you're not giving that off. Because sometimes you may not feel that you're expressing a certain emotion, but the words you say can say one thing, but then the expressions from your body can be expressing something else, And then after that, when you are telling them the truth and when you are being sincere, then, don't care about how they feel. Because the thing about a person who needs guidance and the person who has lost their way is that the person who kept, who was truthful to them in their heedlessness, they'll stay away from that person while they're being heedless. Like they won't go near him. Like, they're going to tell me about myself. Like me and Salim, I ran, I was like, Salim's at the masjid, I'm not going. For like a whole year, I'm telling you, But the thing is that when that person wants to say, you know what, I want to do better. I want to do my best. I want to be who I'm supposed to be. They're going to come find the person who always told them the truth. And for me, then I was like, I just start calling Salim. He's been dead for some time. I still remember his phone number, 609-404-6381. It's the first number I called when I woke up. Do-do-do-do. Hey, what we doing today? Because I wanted to be my best. And so that's the thing, don't worry about it. Don't think about it too much, Just make sure that you're being sincere, inshallah. And then this is the last question. Whoa, Capriya, you're a photographer too? Subhanallah. All right, Assalamu alaikum, wa alaikum salam. Says, thank you and sorry for the condition of this paper. Subhanallah. This happened a lot even though I didn't live that long. This happened a lot even though I didn't live that long. When you are mean to people and are not thoroughly generous with them, they respect you and think, help me out. And think 1,000 times of and think 1,000 times of the words they say to you. And when you give them your all, they walk all over you, disrespect you, get greedy with you. What should you do? Subhanallah, that was a good question. That really was a good question. And I haven't lived that long either, so I don't know, how, befitting it is for me to answer the question from that perspective. But from what I can give you is that, nah, man, don't let Shaitaan play you out, yo. Really, man. Like Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, there was a lady, and she would throw camel loins on him. The loins of it, that's najis. That's imagine someone, coming right up to you, taking a bucket of urine and going, tush. How would you feel about that? Really, think about that. How would you feel about that? And when she died, these bad things stopped happening to him, and so he knew that something was wrong because these bad things weren't happening. And then he had asked some other people, what happened to sister so and so, the lady so and so, who was a non-believer as well, and he said, what happened to her, and he said, oh, she died, and he got really upset because no one had told him that she died. And Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he had so much reverence and so much respect for death that when a procession would come for a dead person, even a non-Muslim, he would stand. And he was really upset that no one told him. And the reason why he was upset, and he said because he said that was a soul that escaped me. This person who's trying to take advantage, and this person who's trying to be greedy, that's repulsive. I know it is. It's very, 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 very repulsive. I get it. But that person continued to be generous with them. Continue to help them. Continue to be in their lives, right? Why? Because perhaps if they're not going to get this thing from you, then perhaps they're going to go be disobedient to Allah to try to get these things that they need. They already stooped to such a low level. So if it's a thing that you can give them without it harming yourself, like if some person asks for money, they always ask for money. Always, always, always ask for money. To the point where it's like, yo, bro, you just ask me for money because I'm going to give it to you. But here's the thing. If you have it, still give it to them. Just give it to them. Just give it to them. Who cares? Just give it up. They keep asking you for your time, and you don't, and you're like, yo, you're just asking for my time, bro, because I'm going to give you my time, bro. But it's mad unfair. I got mad stuff to do. They ask you for your time and you can give it to them, give it to them. Give it to them. Because when they're ready to not be greedy, and when they're ready to not take advantage, they're going to have examples of how people were sincere with them, how people were genuine with them. And about these sincere people, about these genuine people, is that Allah Ta'ala, He would never decrease you. They say about charity, about giving of your wealth, that to give that charity would never decrease your wealth. So if you give a thing, and take this charity, Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, even a smile to the other believers is charity, It's just charity. So, smiling too much, you're never going to hear, there's no such thing as smiling too much. And in fact, smiling, it may hurt your cheeks some, but it will never ever decrease you. It will only increase you. So if there's a time where you can give charity, always give the charity, irregardless of who you're giving the charity to. And ask Allah Ta'ala to make this, something that will count for you, when you're in your grave. And then after that, to end it off, I will say that someone recently taught me, someone who I've grown, much respect for, someone whose hospitality I've seen, him, put me before his family, put his community before his family, put everything before himself. And he was giving me some advice. And the advice that he gave me, I have a hard time with saying no as well, But the advice that he gave me was that to say no is powerful. To say no is powerful. And I've been thinking about it, since the time that he told it to me. I'm like, wow, no, how can saying no be powerful? But I thought about it, It's like, man, anytime, Shaitaan, he put something in front of you, say no. Say no. And wallahi, by not doing a bad thing, it is doing a good thing. And so, but about saying no is that you gain your respect. Because sometimes you have to say no in some regards so that way people will respect your worth. Because you're a Muslim, It's your job, you know, to maintain your status in society, you know. It's your job, you know. It's your job, you know, to continue to bring respect and honor to your parents when the others see you, you know. For the other elders to see you and say, wow, you know, Ibn so-and-so was really good, you know, or Bintu so-and-so was really, really good, you know. It's your job, you know. But sometimes in order to do that, you have to say no. So about these people who are sometimes greedy and repulsive, you know, if you can't do this thing without hurting yourself, then say no, because that will be charity for them as well, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Stay here. Sure. Sure.
Because we're speaking about sincerity, right? If you guys, any of the mentors and any of the elders who are in the community and have been in this community for some time and have, you know, took part into raising, you know, the youth of yesterday, you know, that I had to tell you that the nicest thing that happened to me while I was here is that last night we were eating dinner and there was a brother who came in, his name is Mustafa, and he walked in the room and I was eating my food and I seen his stove and I was like, yo man, that's hot. I was like, that's a nice stove, you know? And then instantly he began, you know, he unbuttoned it and I was like, nah, see, I'm good, you know? But he wouldn't take no for an answer, you know? And then he took it off his back and he gave it to me, you know? And this happened last night. And I'm wearing that thobe today. And I wore it because I was hoping that he would be here to see me in it, to show him how much I appreciated it, you know? And then I wear white, bro. I always wear white. But I wanted to tell you, thank you so much, Sidi. Assalamu alaikum.
Jazakumullahu khairan. Thank you so much, Ibn Ali Miller. Thank you for coming to our community. May Allah accept from you, accept from all of you. Inshallah, hopefully he reached your heart today. And if he has done so, please remember him in your dua, a few sentences, and his parents, alhamdulillah. Just a quick note from DAHTV staff, we want to just appreciate you and thank you. So we want to give you a small token from our end. Jazakallah khair for coming through. Yes. And there's also a mentee's, Aisha's mom also got you a gift for you, inshallah. Jazakallah for coming through in our community. May Allah accept from all of us. I know I know you guys are hungry. So what we want to do is, can we get all the brothers up in here so we can take a picture with Brother Ali? You guys cool with that? Yeah? All right, so can we get the brothers here so we can take a picture, inshallah? A little bit forward. Make sure you guys do not touch the back. The floor. Three. Can you guys go? Can you go to the other side? Go to the front.
Everyone, this one there, inshallah. If you could, you know, put your ones up for that night in Allah.
Go ahead. You got it, Michelle? What is it? Like Al-Hijrah? Alright, look at this camera, guys. In 5, 4, 3, 2, Takbir!